you geeks! Full spoiler warning for the Empyrean series through the end of Onyx Storm, because that book left us so many taunting questions, the biggest of which being, who is Xaden's new venin brother? Coming off my successful second prediction regarding the identity of Odium's champion in Wind and Truth, I figured I'd give that methodology a try to identify who Rebecca Yarros' man of mystery could be.
Who could they be? Who could it be?
Let's unpack the obvious clues that Yarros has left for us, then go down my list of suspects who are arranged from least to most likely, in my opinion. If you disagree, please feel free to let me know down in the comments. Thank you! Clues. At the end of Onyx Storm, we get a Xaden perspective, of course, where he is shocked, I say, to discover he has a new brother, Venin. My new brother and the unconscious dragon lying in the valley behind the canyon. How could he do this? Choose this after watching me stumble and fall over the last 5 months. How could he willingly walk the path I felt like hell to leave? He's the last person I would have expected to turn. And yet here we are. The single block of text gives us the most information. Pairing the brother with the unconscious dragon in the valley makes it sound like his brother is a dragon rider, and I've seen no one suspecting Drake Cordella of being the new brother, though that would be surprising. Also, Xaden tells us that this brother has known about his struggles for 5 months. Doing the math, we know that Xaden turned at the solstice, which is late December, and by my calculations, the Battle of Dreyfus is happening on like the 1st of May, so it's a very close call for who could have known about Xaden's venin powers for 5 months. Now, in December, we know that Violet told Garrick, Bodhi, and Imogen about Xaden turning, and it doesn't rule out that other people could have discovered about Xaden going venin through their own means, but it still narrows down the list quite a bit. We also know that Xaden has an opinion about this new brother turning venin, so he must have known this person before they turned. And they must have turned really recently if Xaden is surprised by this, because Xaden has been able to sense other venin since all the way back in January, as he told Violet. I sensed them, he finally answers, the same way they sense me. That's how I know I've changed. I can feel them calling to me, because I'm one of them. This tells me that Xaden's new brother must have turned during the Battle of Dreyfus itself in order to surprise Xaden as much as he did. Xaden does give us a few more hints about his opinion and identity of the brother in this chapter. The first being his fear that this brother could pose a threat to him, or that Berwin will use him as a leverage. The bond between Berwin and me is the kind that should never exist, and now that my sage has another sibling he can use against me, I'm screwed. Despite perceiving his brother as a possible threat, Xaden still expresses a feeling of loyalty to this brother, a feeling that he won't let this brother stumble down this journey alone. And when Xaden unleashes the Onyx Storm, he lets his brother live. Shadow drags Berwin from Sigale and knocks him and my new brother unconscious. I start with the one who dared set its teeth in Sigale's shoulder, skim past the one who now thinks himself my brother. This exchange, as Xaden goes on to kill all perceived threats and leaves the brother alive, speaks volumes. We also learn in this exchange that Xaden has read his brother's thoughts or intentions, which is weird because, first of all, in the moment, the brother is unconscious. But perhaps it's referring to Xaden beforehand getting a clear read on his new brother. Which is strange because even if they don't know about Xaden's intrinsic powers, Riders are taught by their 3rd year at how to shield out their dragons and are told to keep them up at all times. So either the brother was sloppy and assumed that because his dragon was unconscious, there was no threat, or perhaps the brother was intentional and knew somehow that Xaden could read his mind and wanted to send Xaden a message that could not be said aloud, telling Xaden that he was not alone. And as Xaden muses on his inability to kill Berwin, he lets this slip. I wonder how many initiates feel the same about their sage. At least one that I know of. As far as we know, besides himself, Xaden only knows 2 initiates at this point. His new brother and Jack Barlow, who probably doesn't want to kill Berwin. So, best possible situation here is that this new brother, out of loyalty and friendship for Xaden, heard that Xaden was going to walk into the Barrens alone, and his new brother said,
Of course you are! And I'm coming with you!
Because Yarros does not break up squads lightly, and I don't see this trivial matter of Xaden going ASIM as a reason to break up the bro squad, the offensive line of Eurasian forces. Now, unfortunately, Berwin has demonstrated in this book how he can manipulate and control his initiates, which could spell out the trouble and threat that Xaden perceives in his new sibling's existence. After all, brother v. brother is an iconic trope for a reason.
You were my brother, Anakin! I loved you!
And that could be both fun and heartbreaking. So let's look down and see who this mystery man might be. Pancheck. I've now seen 2 people finish Onyx Storm and believe that Pancheck and the new brother are the same person. They're not so much as theorizing about it, just stating their confusion at all the unclear antecedents. Now, as an audiobook reader, I had the advantage of hearing the narrator's tone drastically shift when talking about Pancheck versus the new brother, but there are further context clues that I think pretty squarely disqualifies Pancheck from the running. First, we have no reason to believe that Pancheck knew Xaden was venin 5 months ago. Second, we know that Pancheck's dragon is not the unconscious one at the end of the valley. Rather, it's closer to Berwin and Xaden, along with Pancheck, who, during this scene, is absolutely losing his mind. This is not what we agreed to, Pancheck shouts, stumbling backward toward his own shrieking, netted dragon. How many times did he give them Violet's location? He dies. The decision is made without debate. Now, Xaden's desire to see Pancheck dead definitely goes against his actions in letting his new brother live when he goes full Onyx Storm. We don't actually know what Pancheck's fate was following the Onyx Storm, though because Berwin just killed his dragon with a single dagger, I don't think that Pancheck is long for this world, unless he is a venin, in which case he could channel from the ground to make up the power differential. But if that happened, I'm sure Xaden would have found an alloy-hilted dagger with Pancheck's name on it, unlike the fate of the brother. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Pancheck ain't the new brother. Moving on. Auric. He is the first of our real contenders, although a strange one considering he is not on the list of people who Violet knew about Xaden going venin in December. This theory comes from Auric's signet of precognition that we don't see on full display until the very end of the book. But as early as mid-January, Auric is showing signs of precognition and getting dangerously close to predicting Violet becoming Duchess. If you listen to the audiobook, it may sound like he actually says as much, But in print, we see that is Xaden's line. She'd be a great politician, Auric continues. Or a general, maybe. Definitely nobility. End quote. With that speech, at least a duchess. Xaden shifts his weight, brushing his elbow against my shoulder. Since Xaden is the one to say duchess, this sounds more like him hitting on Violet than Auric being fully aware of his precog abilities, even if he's getting glimmers like every other cadet we've seen with an unusual signet. They take some time to realize what power they're developing. And yet, there is something clearly going on between Xaden and Auric during Onyx Storm that Violet remains completely oblivious to because Auric is a first year. Yet on their trip to Deverelli in February, Xaden implies that he has a growing respect for the young prince. Xaden counters with a bored sigh. You kidnapped our prince, and there's a large part of me that wouldn't mind him staying here, but that would make things difficult for someone I have complicated loyalty toward. So I'm going to need the jerk back. Auric. Even aware of their prior history of loathing each other, Violet doesn't dig too deep into the scene at the Temple of Dune where Auric wants to offer himself instead of Xaden as their champion, because Auric admits that Xaden is needed as a leader for his people. So Xaden's response that because Auric personally hates him, he should let him, Xaden, offer himself up as sacrifice. Those words seem to have a double meaning in light of Xaden offering himself up as venin. But the question is, was Auric aware of that double meaning at the time? Certainly, I think that by the time they return to Basgiath, Auric and Xaden have some sort of understanding, and that Auric is pretty aware that Xaden is venin, especially during signet sparring with Kaori, where they practice running landings and remounting, because Auric does this. Auric lands 20 feet from the projection without breaking a sweat, but instead of rushing the target, he whirls towards Xaden and Kaori and hurls a palm-sized axe. Xaden doesn't even flinch as it lands a foot in front of Kaori, the blade embedded in the mud. The projection disappears. Xaden nods once before Auric backs away, then breaks into a run to Mount Molvik. Leaving my suspicions about Kaori aside, I think it's very telling that Auric was told to attack the practice venin, and he half-heartedly throws an axe at Xaden, who nods. Those two are up to something, and Violet cannot be bothered. She also cannot be bothered to ask why Auric thinks she needs to save Tyrandor during the Battle of Erasia. Now, first time through, it seems innocent enough. Erasia's under attack. Tyrandor needs saving, but we know that Tyrandor gets saved in this moment by Leothin firing the ward stone. So why did Auric tell Violet to go to Dune's temple, if not so that the priestess of Dune could marry her and Asim Xaden when the time was right? Meaning that Auric must have seen a vision of Xaden going Asim and being chill enough to just go along with it.
Winning. I love winnings. Drinks all around.
Now, could have that vision included Auric seeing the necessity of himself turning venin so that he can save his people like Xaden is doing? Possibly. I just don't see how the clue about the brother had seen Xaden struggle for 5 months can apply to Auric, who at the earliest may have known in January, but that's a stretch to 5 months, and he was really aloof from Xaden for most of it, so you can hardly call that seeing him struggle. But possibly. Let me know your thoughts down below. Bodhi. My second most likely candidate for Xaden's new brother venin is Bodhi. And frankly, when I finished Onyx Storm the first time, he was my top choice. After all, he is on the short list of people who unquestionably knew Xaden was venin back in December. Now, going into Onyx Storm, he had a reputation for being level-headed and reasonable among the marked ones, at least according to Violet in Iron Flame. And I thought you were the most reasonable of the group, I sigh. Oh, I am the most reasonable in the group, Bodhi flashes a grin, leaning back on his heels. I also don't have a death wish. Given this reputation for lack of death wish and reasonable, I can see how Xaden would think Bodhi the least likely to turn venin. But as Onyx Storm continues, Bodhi gets less and less reasonable and less scared of pissing off his cousin. I am not your backup plan. Bodhi retreats 2 steps, then looks down the table at Brennan and me before glaring at Xaden. You are the Duke. I am the Rider. I will stand by your side and be your right hand for the rest of our lives. But if you want a member of our family to hold that seat, you'd better hold yourself together. Now, this could be interpreted as Bodhi wanting nothing to do with Xaden turning full venin. Or it could be an ultimatum. If Xaden turns full venin, then Bodhi will have no choice but to go with him and be his right hand, leaving someone else, a member of a different family, like Sorengale, to sit on the burnt throne. Though there is a moment in the Battle of Drathis where it seems Bodhi and Xaden have come to an understanding. Bodhi has given Xaden a promise, and it seems to be willing to stand by Violet's side when she is acting in Tyrandor's best interests. I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted, protecting my cousin, my province. My signet is the balance, Bodhi argues, lifting his hand as the wind rises to a constant roar at our backs. I can stop her. You can't, I push again, and this time he stumbles sideways. Your signet must only work on our magic, not theirs. Now go. You promised Xaden. This equilibrium is clearly short-lived as Violet crushes his hopes and dreams and sense of honor and ability to defend his country by telling him that he is powerless. And men seem to do desperate things when they are told they are going to lose their power.
My honor, my throne, my country. I'm about to lose them all.
Yarros has said repeatedly that this is when characters turn venin. After this, we see Bodhi flying like a madman over Drathis, getting swarmed with venin such that Imogen has to interfere. At the end of Imogen's chapter, she sees Bodhi on the ground retching within Drathis proper, though his dragon Cure is not mentioned. Now, if Cure had died due to the Wyvern attack, of course Bodhi may have channeled from the ground to make up the power differential. But if that's the case, how could have he gotten to the canyon far from Drathis to be there as Xaden goes Onyx Storm and then get knocked out? And whose dragon would it be lying unconscious in the valley if not the brothers? So there's just little details that doesn't fit, the biggest of which, how did the brother get there? Which is why my top choice is Garrick. Garrick knew that Xaden went venin back in December, clearing the 5 months to May easily. Next, he is with Xaden at every step on his journey from December to May, starting with hunting down the venin in January and accompanying Xaden in this crucial scene in Chapter 2, where Theophany is trying to recover Jack Barlow. Xaden's eyes flare in confusion for all of a millisecond before shadows explode around us, immediately devouring every speck of light in a sea of endless black I instantly recognize as home. A heartbeat later, the shadows retreat, revealing the shriveled bodies of the dark wielders on the floor, alloy-hilted daggers embedded in their chest. He's in thick winter flight leathers, devoid of any markings but his second lieutenant rank, speckled with tiny dots of water that tell me he's been out in the snow, the same as Garrick. Rebecca Yarros has a thing about putting important details about the climax within her second chapter. In Fourth Wing, Violet does her exposition dump about Ath being on the parapet. In Iron Flame, Brennan tells Violet about the importance of wardstones, both of which are crucial to the climax of their respective books. Here in Onyx Storm, the second chapter, Xaden interrupts Theophany attacking Violet while Theophany is trying to recover Jack Barlow. Xaden then unleashes a torrent of shadows to remove the threats from Violet's life and caress her cheek. Xaden is wearing winter flying leathers and covered in snow and ice, and so is Garrick. Now, if that's not just a microcosm of the Battle of Dreyfus, then I don't know what is. Still, let's talk about Garrick's motivations. He went to every posting with Xaden. He saw Xaden lose it when battling at the border. He saw Xaden lose it when Violet went over the border. And he felt helpless when Theophany attacked his patrol and took Mira right before the Battle of Dreyfus. Telling Violet, "We were on patrol when she found us." Garrick's gaze flickers my way, and the instant pity that fills his open eye sours my stomach. I wasn't strong enough, or quick enough. She ripped us straight out of the sky like a pair of pigeons in a windstorm. Then, at the Battle of Dreyfus itself, Imogen notices that Garrick's Dragon Cure is missing. But that doesn't stop Garrick from appearing later after Quinn's death to rescue Imogen. Some have pointed that this is when Garrick turned, but actually Imogen and Garrick have a eye-to-eye moment here, and she doesn't notice anything strange about his eyes. Still, he rescues her and walks her to safety, and then says this very foreboding line. "I can't walk again. Even if I made it to Eratia, I'd never be strong enough to get back," he calls over his shoulder. "So I better find some expletive way to do something." And we still don't know where Crod, his dragon, is. Could it be that Garrick has ordered Crod to stick with Xaden and Sigale to tell him if they get into any trouble? And then when they do, Garrick has to make a choice. Stay where he is in Dreyfus, or find the power to walk again to be with his friend. Finding the power meaning draining the earth and turning venin, the shock of which may have sent Crod into unconsciousness, or it could have been the wyvern attacking Crod as well. Besides, we have a word of Yarros saying that the identity of the brother can be found in the missing riders, and the only named missing rider we have right now is Garrick besides Xaden. Implicitly, of course, Bodhi must be missing too, because how else could the throne of Tyrandor have passed to Violet unless Tyrandor has some interesting inheritance laws that we are not aware of at the time? Frankly, I think both Garrick and Bodhi have gone with Xaden at this point because they need 3 marked ones to hide whatever it is they're doing from Melgren, and the center and the 2 wings have crossed the blue line and are about to make an offensive play, finally, against the venin. So it actually wouldn't be that weird if both boys went venin to be with Xaden.
Both is good.
But Xaden specifies there is only one new brother in that canyon with him, and I think it has to be Garrick. But many others have others' opinions, and I'm interested in hearing yours. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Bye!